UFOs, paranormal, are they real? I'm going to tell you the answer is yes about my own personal experiences. In fact, Keanu Reeves and I, who I met, had a very similar experience to myself. So I'm going to try to discuss some of this stuff with you. My name is Graig Weich. I'm an independent comic book artist, writer, and director from BeyondComics.tv. This is my new comic book, GEKIDO. But let me discuss some of the really serious issues, and one of the reasons why I have never done drugs or gotten drunk or tried to mess with my senses is because of the actual real life experiences that I have had since I was a little boy, my entire life. They've been random experiences. I'm going to try to share them with you. And again, I do not expect anybody to believe what I'm saying, because if someone told me, I wouldn't believe it. But this is one of the main reasons why I've tried to stay very clear-minded and focused and not inebriate my senses. There's no history of any kind of, illness or mental illness in my family on either side. Thank God we've all been fine. My father was a psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, a very smart, intelligent guy from a science background. So I'm also somebody who's coming from a very scientific point of view. So what I've tried to do in some of the different paranormal experience stories I've heard, as well as UFO stories, is to try to find the most common denominator and what is the most realistic explanation, so that I could weed out what isn't alien, what isn't paranormal, what is a coincidence. Is there a scientific explanation for this? It's very important to remove one's own religious or spiritual belief and just look at the facts, because it doesn't matter what we believe. What's real is real, whether or not we believe it. So it's important to target and focus what is actually happening and what has been happening, and then try to understand it, try to quantify a better explanation for maybe seeing if it can be repeated and studied and tested. And I've spoken to some of the world's leading paranormal psychologists and people who are neurologists and actual medical doctors who have a fascination in this and trying to understand people who claim that they've had past life experiences when they were little children, and then they kind of forget as they get older, but the things that they mention are incredibly, shockingly accurate. So for a 3-year-old to start saying that they thought they were a military, sergeant and the plane got shot down, and then the parents do research and find that that actually happened in the past, that's kind of astonishing, right?
If it's true.
In my own personal experiences, the one that I had that I think was phenomenally shocking, it impacted my life since I had witnessed it. There were a few, and I've been able to prove some of these. So I'm going to give some examples, as I kind of describe some of the different things that have happened. And again, it's absolutely fine if you guys can't wrap your mind around believing me. I understand. Again, I wouldn't believe somebody I didn't know who told me. But in all the kind of analysis and questioning and everything that has occurred, everybody I spoke to said that they understand that what I witnessed is something that actually happened, that it is true, that there's no question of the truth. The question is, how does it work? What is the unknown science that will maybe one day in the future be a common provable thing? Right now it seems like, oh my God, I can't believe it, it's so out there, because we don't have a way to replicate it consistently to test it. And that's how science works. You need to replicate something over and over again until you understand how the mechanics work, how the science works. So at this point it's in theory, because it's based on people's hearsay or based on people's experiences. So again, I try to weed out, first of all, was somebody on drugs? Were they high? Do they have mental illness in their family? Is there any risk? Could they have been dreaming? Could they have been this? You have to go through a list and a series of things to weed out all of those options. And if you have a clear-minded, focused, scientific-based intellectual person like myself, who has like a spiritual belief, but that's more of my own choosing. It's not something that I'm saying is or isn't or anything like that. I don't want to impose my personal belief on actual facts that either exist or don't. I have to focus on what does and try to understand it. So let me tell you something that had happened first to Keanu Reeves that was similar to myself. He went on Jimmy Kimmel Live, which you can watch on YouTube, And you can see some of the intrinsic explanations of how he said when he was around 10 years old, similar to myself, he was with his babysitter and he saw this jacket floating in the air and moving on its own in midair. And he was shocked and so scared by it. And he thought maybe he's going crazy until his babysitter across the room screamed out of fear, and then the jacket dropped to the floor. Watch that clip on Jimmy Kimmel Live. It's not a joke. It's a very serious thing that he said. And I wish that more people, more celebrities especially, would share their stories and come forth so that we could start to try to create a list of occurrences and try to get to the bottom of how this works. You know, is life something that is hackable? Is Elon Musk's theory that he is mentioning about simulation theory for existence, if there's any credence to that, if there's any truth to that, it would then mean that this is a hackable place. So my own personal theory about this, and I know I'm jumping topics here, but I'm trying to cram a lot into this video. But my own personal topics that I think should be covered is the paranormal. Again, UFOs I think also could be a lot of, you know, military coincidences, meaning that they're experimental crafts that maybe secret, you know, laboratories in the military are designing that we think are alien. But UFO means unidentified flying object. It doesn't mean it's an alien object. It could just be an incredible invention that we're witnessing, right? So how do you know if it's alien or not? That's a whole topic unto itself. But back to Elon Musk and the simulation theory. One of the things is I would like to call it organic simulation theory, meaning that everything that is matter, all of this is made out of the same stuff, right? You know, our bodies, this you know, statue I sculpted here of Ray Vidactyler, codename Justice, the walls that are around us, everything is made out of matter. They're vibrating at different frequencies, and it creates a different sense of what you can penetrate through or not based on how fast it vibrates. Very simple explanation. I know that it's not a mass detailed one, but the idea here is that I believe the matter itself, yes, this is a real life we're living, this is the real world that we're in, but it's important to kind of understand what is actually occurring, right? So trying to recognize that we are in this reality, this is happening, right? But that maybe it could be the most advanced version of a simulation, meaning this is actual life. Our consciousness is somehow infused into this physical matter, but it's very similar to like entering in the most realistic VR, you know, virtual reality kind of game that you can imagine. So Elon Musk and some of the other professors that he spoke to and physicists were saying that the ones and zeros match. You can see this on YouTube as well. They match that of a video game. So this could be the most advanced, you know, version of like a kind of simulation ever created. And we're born with our memories wiped out, right? We have no mind to remember anything. But if there is a way to retrieve those memories, potentially after death, something called the Akashic Records, if you guys research that as well. And again, I write a lot about this in my comic books that are coming out. But, you know, there are different theories related to that. So back to Keanu Reeves and his very, you know, kind of scary, frightening experience and what had happened there. So he had seen this floating object. So in my personal experience, when I was about 10 years old, about 10 and a half years old, I was sitting in my dining room that I was in, and there was a glass table kind of about like 45 degree angle away from me, probably like around maybe 8 feet away. And I'm sitting in the corner playing, if you could imagine, like, let's say, for example, I'm over here in the corner playing with my little toys on the floor. I start to notice something moving out of the corner of my eye across the room, again, about 8 feet away, which is on this glass table, a number 2 pencil. The pencil is hovering above the table in midair, just like literally like hovering, like this. And I remember my heart, like I was like, oh my God, I was so terrified at that. And I kept thinking, that's impossible, that's impossible, that's impossible. That is not possible, that is not possible. Because at 10 and a half years old, I know that you cannot defy gravity. I've already learned that, you know, and it's something that you've never seen in your life. So to see this pencil hovering by itself, you know, just and literally just like a nice little hover, probably just about that high, about maybe 11 inches off the table. or so, just around like this, and it's just hovering there. I just was frozen. I couldn't move. It was probably like around 5:30 in the afternoon, I would say. And what's interesting is that my babysitter was in the next room in the kitchen around the corner washing dishes, right? So I was 100% alone here in the apartment. And I remember I'm looking at that number 2 pencil, and here's where it gets crazy. The pencil does like this and turns and faces me. Literally turns to face me. I was like, oh my God. Again, this is about 8 feet away. And then it pulls back like somebody pulling back to throw a dart and shoots forward. That was terrifying for me. I know maybe you guys are laughing or you think it's stupid or whatever, but this for me was a very traumatic moment in my childhood. Sitting there watching a pencil fly across the table, and whammo, it hit me right in the leg. And it left a mark in my right thigh for about 3 months it took to heal. It didn't actually hurt, but it did absolutely leave that mark in the leg, and I was just staring down, just like frozen. It's like you can't speak, you can't scream, you're just in shock because your brain can't comprehend that something that defies the laws of physics has just happened and you just witnessed it, right? So I then get up and I run into the kitchen across the room, around the corner, to my babysitter, and I was saying, oh my God, I was like, the pencil hit me in the leg, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, calm down, maybe the air condition was on and it blew it. I said, blew it? I said, it's floating in midair like a helicopter, and then it turns, and then it pulls back, so there must be intelligence, right? Because think about that logically. It didn't just go up and then go forward. It had to pull back and then go forward, as if someone's throwing a dart. You naturally pull back before you throw it. And the height, again, it would probably be like around here, because about here, because the table was a little lower. So, right about here. So it was like somebody did like this and threw it, right? So again, when it hit me in that leg, oh, terrifying. But she did not believe that that's possible. Obviously, who would, right? I can't blame her for that. But she was like, okay, it was probably this, that, or the other. Wow, I get chills filming this, but this is the actual room where it happened in, and I'm back here again. And this would have been a glass table that was there at the time, a little bit higher up. And then across the room is the couch where I would have been playing right at the corner as a little boy. I believe the couch would have been moved over slightly a little bit more, but I would have been right about there. So we would go from there, let me just film here, all the way over to where the glass table would have been, which was a long glass table at the time with metal legs or something like that, or tin legs. And there's the pencil, which would be roughly about 8 feet, roughly, I would say, away. And the pencil, as I had mentioned, it was just literally hovering like this. So it was just hovering above the table like that. And then it slowly turned to me, then pulled back, and wham, bang, hit me right here. Again, I would have been a little boy at the time, and it would have flown across from that table all the way, boom, like right about here is where it hit me, and then dropped on the floor, and that was where the mark was. And I looked up, and I was terrified at the time, and then got up and ran into the kitchen, which is right here, different sink, but this is the actual apartment. I'm back in the same apartment where this happened. So here we go. Here we go. So you could see, and then the person who would help around the house, who would babysit me, was right here washing the dishes and stuff. Yeah. And I was a little boy, about 10 years old-ish, about 10 and a half or so. So that's the distance there, if you guys can see it. So again, it would have been here, hovering, turn toward me, and then shoot all the way across, hitting me in the leg. I would have been at the corner of the couch playing, but again, I think this couch has moved over. This would have been probably about here, the corner of the old couch, going to about there. So it was just one of those kind of circumstances where it impacted me so much. I ran and I told my father, who again is a psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, at the time there, and I told him what had happened, and he said to me something that I'll never forget. He says, he says, in my whole life's practice, I can tell if somebody's being completely authentic and sincere. And he says, I know you are. I know you really know that you think you saw that and it happened. That was the closest he could acknowledge it, that he believed that I saw it, that I know that what I saw is true, that I'm being honest and it's true. But he didn't say that he believes it actually happened. He believes that I believe it actually happened. So it was an interesting kind of, it's interesting. So in other words, like, he knows that I'm being honest about it, was the point. But I don't expect anyone to believe that. But again, Keanu Reeves with the floating jacket that suddenly just dropped to the floor and was floating by itself, there's nobody around playing a joke. It never happened again. But here's the key. On YouTube, after a lifetime of research, I found another 10-year-old kid who had a floating pencil also on YouTube, which was incredible to see. I think I saved that video, it was a few years ago. I'll have to see if I could find it, maybe re-upload it or share it or something. But what was fascinating about that particular kid is if you look at his videos, right, it said floating pencil. I kept seeing like magic tricks, and trying to get rid of that stuff so I could get to something that maybe matched what I went through. And sure enough, here's a kid around 10 years old, 10 and a half years old, similar age, right? But it's a new video, right? And, he's like, hey, is that a floating pencil in the last frame of this footage? So it's just him talking with his friends for, many, many minutes, just doing nothing, just being kids and wandering around, chatting, la, 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 nothing serious. And then as he walks by the kitchen in the video, the last frame, you see a pencil just hovering in midair like that. And that was the closest thing I've ever seen to what I personally experienced. So I went back and I looked at his other videos to see, like, is this like just a lark? Has it happened? Does he do special effects? What's going on? And sure enough, every video that kid posted for a 2-year span, from 8 to 10, right, was just him doing nothing but playing with his friends. Every video was the same. He's just kind of just filming his friends and him just walking around and talking. Nothing's happening. So that proves to me that this is not like a kind of intentional special effect or a trick he was doing or anything like that. It's just a kid being a kid, and he himself is asking the viewer, hey, do you also see that floating pencil in the last frame? What is that? Can anybody explain that? So he's asking for help. So I just thought that was a fascinating moment. That was the closest I've ever seen to something that was somewhat similar to what I had experienced. Now, back to the pencil incident with the floating pencil that shot across the room and hit me in the leg, right? What's fascinating about that is it impacted me so much that for nearly 10 years of my life, I would always, if I saw a pencil or a pen, I'd always put a cup on top of it or something on top of that pencil or pen, or I'd put it away because there was a fear that it would happen again. It never did, but there was a fear of that. So I think that kind of trauma or that reaction to feel, a certain kind of frightening, traumatic experience like that is very telling, right? That's a very telling experience. So I tend to think that means that, it was not only something that absolutely happened, but my reaction to it for years to come was a reflection of that incident or that trauma that had occurred, right? So I thought I'd mention that to you guys. That's one topic. Let's talk about precognition, which is different than deja vu. Deja vu is where you feel like you've already experienced something that you're in the middle of experiencing. It's familiar to you while you're in the process of experiencing it, right? Precognition is completely different. It's completely its own thing. Precognition is where you have an ability to before recognize an event that's either about to happen or you believe somehow it's happened already and you see it in your mind like a pre-recorded memory, but you haven't lived it yet. Then shortly thereafter you will live it or you will have it come to fruition. I've had many of these happen in my life, and it was I think that was probably the first, I guess, I don't know if you want to call it psychic or whatever. It's nothing that I control. It's just something I'm experiencing and witnessing. First time it happened, though, was when I was a little boy, and it happened between me, my mother, and also a waitress in a cafe, the Olympia Diner, back in 107th Street in Broadway near the Olympia Movie Theater, if I remember correctly, when I was about 6 years old. So that was like the very first time we had all experienced that there was some strange feeling. We didn't know what it was. We were like, this is so weird. Like I feel like this has all happened already, or it's about to happen. And then I was like, yeah, I feel it too. And my mom's like, you do? I do. As the waitress was like, yes, I do as well. And we were all kind of talking to each other about this strange feeling that we can't, understand what it is. And I said, I could see like two police officers walk in. They sit at the left side of the diner. They order the following thing. They're wearing this. This one has the hat. This one doesn't. This one's doing that. And I just kind of give this description. My mother and the waitress at the time were like, oh, yes, I see that too. And we're looking, but there's nobody at the counter across the way. And then, boom, the two police officers walk in that I perfectly described. They sit down at the corner. They order the same thing they ordered. Now, again, that's nothing special about that. So, it's like, was it coincidence? I don't know. But the feeling, the detection, the sense, there was a sense that we were detecting something in the air or whatever it is. It's almost like I have allergies, for example. So if I'm around, if I walk into like a Petco, that thick, heavy, musky air, from the animals or whatever, it hits my sinuses. I could smell it. It's like a thickness in the air. There was something like that, but it wasn't a smell. It was a feeling that we all were sharing at that time. So that was a very generic example of it. So let's get to some more specifics, okay? It started to happen where I would go back to my parents' house and I would say, hey, listen, you know what? My ex-girlfriend from, a few years ago is going to call me in 6 minutes. And they're like, what are you talking about? How is that even possible? And I said, I don't know. It just came into my mind and I said it out loud. I don't know. And on the 6th minute, she called. I hadn't heard from her for years. So that's a very kind of odd coincidence, or is it something else? Again, a couple of years later, same exact story. Hey, listen, my ex from a few years ago, she's going to call me. It wasn't a birthday. It wasn't a holiday. It wasn't a special occasion. This is a random occurrence. But I said the same thing to my parents. Hey, my ex is going to call me, same ex. They're like, what, again? You haven't heard from her since that last time a few years ago. And, boom, I was like, yeah, I'm telling you, 6 minutes, she's going to call. Bang, on the 6th minute, she called me. So it's just kind of a weird thing. Now, is that a thought I had and I sent out that frequency through the air or something and she detected it and then called? Or was she having that intention to call and I was sensing it or detecting it? Okay, let's get to some proof, some evidence, okay? A few years ago, I was vacuuming quietly again in the same house there. And I was very relaxed. I wasn't thinking about anything. I'm always analyzing and thinking. So it was when I was at calm, quiet, peace. Everything that's happened that I'm describing to you is when I was at peace. Calm, quiet, I'm receptive. So I'm vacuuming, you hear the vacuum zzz, like this. On the TV is the news. The newscaster, she comes on and she says, today's winning lotto numbers are, and you have those little like jumble of balls that are gonna pop out the numbers. So I'm vacuuming and I say 6, and she says, the first number is 6. And I'm like, 8, while I'm vacuuming. And next number is, there's the ball, 8. I was like, 7. She's like, the next number is 7. Today's winning lotto number is 6, 8, 7. I was like, what the hell? And I remember looking at the TV in shock. I was like, oh my God. I drop the vacuum. I run outside. I grab a lottery ticket. And without thinking, start filling in the numbers. Without thinking. I just grab that ticket. I'm like, don't think. I fill in 1 number, 2 numbers, 3 numbers, 4 numbers. And on the 5th number, that's where I started to think, oh, maybe I should do this one. That's where I was doubting whatever was happening. The first 4 numbers, I'm not thinking. I'm just doom. And then the 5th number, I'm like, maybe this one. That's when I interfered with whatever that frequency is that I'm picking up on. I know it sounds hocus pocusy and weird, but that is what I did. And then that night they announced the winning lottery and I won. First number, second number, third number, fourth number. I got all 4 right except the 5th one that I questioned myself on. I won like $600 or something like that, a small lottery. I've tried to do it again, but I can't make it happen. Again, I was not thinking. When I'm not processing or thinking with any logic, I'm just, in the moment of whatever's happening and I'm, hitting those little numbers, that's when I won. So that could be some form of evidence or proof, right? So I want to share this with you guys out there in case anybody else has had similar experiences, please post your comments below. But I would like, if possible, to only get people to post their comments if they're not imposing their own spiritual religious beliefs on it. I'm looking for a scientific explanation for this stuff. And I don't think anybody can, measure it or start, thinking in a scientific way unless we collect enough data and start to see if there's a pattern. What time of day, what time of year, what was going on in their life, where is the environment, where's the location, how old is the person, is the person on drugs, is there mental health problems, there's all these kind of things that need to be identified in order to list this. Now, the most shocking example of precognition that I've ever experienced, that I've personally ever had in my life, is something that happened before the pencil incident. I'm remembering when it happened. It was at a comic book convention. I think it was at the hotel, the Rose. What was it again? I can't remember. This Rose something hotel or whatever it was called. I'm trying to remember, but it was somewhere I think in the East 50s or something like that. I can't remember the name, but again, this is a long time ago. This is I was a kid and about 10 and a half years old. And this is, now we're talking like, in the 80s, right? So we're like mid 80s at this point. And I'm holding a little bag, and in the bag is just like some of my little, stuff that I'm walking around with. And I'm about, was it not the Sheraton Hotel? No, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, so there was like a hallway. It was in a hotel, right? It was a small at this time. These conventions, I think it was like the Creation Convention, if you guys remember the Creation Cons. So at this time in the 80s, this probably would have been like 85, maybe, I think. Look what I found, guys. Evidence. That's right. When I had Dr. Doom sign the autograph, February 25th, 1984. I was a little boy. Look at that. I was younger than I realized. Wow. Look at that incredible autograph album here. That's my mom got me Christopher Reeves autograph, which was awesome. I met Mike Tyson right before he became champion. Sweep the leg, Johnny. There you go. Look at that. The one of the stars of Karate Kid. But look at that. There's the proof right over there. That's it. That's exactly when I met him. See, nobody had a professional made plastic molded Dr. Doom suit yet. Boom. But I'm walking around in the hallway. I'm about to enter into the main exhibitor hall room where all the toys are, the stage, the comic book, collections, the artists, just everything is there, right? And before I enter, I'm holding that bag, and I drop the bag, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And I get hit, almost like the Matrix movie when they're downloading how to do Kung Fu, remember? I get hit with what feels like a download of memories from my point of view, from my visual perspective, meaning I'm looking out of my own eyes at this memory, okay? And I'm in the convention hall, which I have not yet entered into. And I see all the tables and the displays and all the little, comic book stuff and everything. And then I see this incredibly movie-accurate version of Dr. Doom. Remember, in the 80s, they didn't have those kind of like detailed movie suits or anything like that yet. I think they had people dress up as Spider-Man and Superman and Batman. They hadn't had people dressed in professional movie costumes yet. So this was like a new thing that we've never seen before, right? And there's this perfect movie quality Dr. Doom costume with, plastic armor plating and the mask and this huge, tall guy as Dr. Doom. And I remember seeing this, and he's standing on one side, and then on the other side of the room is this kid who has some kind of a mental illness of some sort. He's probably like around maybe 15 years old, little freckles in the face, red hair, and very thin, and he's screaming, "You, Dr. Doom, stop, I'm from the Avengers," and he holds out this little Avengers card, right? I don't know where he got that thing from, right? And he's like, "Stop, you're under arrest, I'm making an arrest, I'm with the Avengers," and you could see he was hysterical, like he was very serious. It wasn't a joke, the kid has some mental issue, right? So the actor playing Dr. Doom is saying, "Kid, please calm down. I'm just an actor in a costume. Please, everything's going to be okay." And I'm looking at this, like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, that's so weird. Boom, and the memory stops. That's it. End of precognition. End of download. And I'm like, that is the weirdest, random kind of strange phenomenon. What was that? So I pick up my bag, I walk into the room, and I go, and boom, the room looks just like I imagined it, but a different angle. So I was like, okay, I must be in a different part of the room. I don't know what that weird thing was. So I walk by, and then wham, this huge guy wearing a Dr. Doom suit walks by, the same movie quality Dr. Doom suit I saw in my head. I said, what the hell is that? Wow, what a coincidence is what I thought. Anyway, I'm shopping, I'm getting some comics. At about that 6 or 7 minute point, I hear, "Hey, you!" And I look up, there's the freaking kid with the freckles. Dr. Doom, and he pulls out the card just like I saw it. And I'm living in the visual perspective that I just described to you. I'm in that camera angle. It's not a different perspective, a different angle. It is the moment that I had already thought of in my head, that already came down like a memory. Again, it didn't feel like a thought or an imaginary thinking kind of idea. It was like a memory had pre-downloaded into my brain that hadn't happened yet. So I see the kid, "Dr. Doom, you're under arrest. I'm making an arrest. I'm with the Avengers." And then there's the actor. "Kid, I'm just an actor in a costume. Please stop." And I'm like, how the hell am I witnessing this thing happening here? This is so weird. And again, I told the same incident, to my parents, and, they were shocked by it. They're like, that's a crazy, random kind of strange thing. There's no importance or relevance to my life about these weird things that I'm having these, episodes with, if you will. But again, it's just a strange moment that had happened, and it was exactly the way I saw it. And then, people are going to help the kid. "It's okay, calm down, kid, calm down. It's okay, everything's okay." He's like, no, we have to arrest him. We have to arrest. Like, he was a real hysterical, nervous kid. Obviously had some, sad, like some mental issues or whatever. But the idea is that the fact that I was able to have this happen in my memory roughly around 7 minutes before it happened is my guess. And then boom, have it play out exactly as I had seen it in my mind. Incredible, so it's an incredible, strange thing. And again, please, I want to say this again. I absolutely understand if you guys, think I'm bananas and you don't believe me. I get it. You know what I'm saying? It's an unbelievable thing I'm telling you, but I'd rather share it on the small chance that somebody else out there has had this happen to them as well and could maybe share in these moments. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so weird. But if nobody talks about it and we're all self-conscious and we're all worried that people are going to think badly of us or think poorly of us or think that we're cuckoo, you know what I'm saying? No one's going to share the knowledge. And how the hell can we ever quantify it? How can we measure it? How can we study it? How can we give it to analysts to try to go over? We've got to collect data together, in my personal opinion, so that we could come together as a human species and figure out what's happening to us and in life. What is this all happening? What does this all mean, and how is it happening is what I meant to say. So anyway, those are certain instances that have happened. Moving on to some more paranormal experiences that I've personally had that I'd like to share with you. There have been a few of them, and they are a little bit scary and a little bit unsettling, but I figure, hey, let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Let's talk about it and see how it goes. So what I'm going to do is try to verbalize to you what my personal experiences was, and then if you've had anything similar, let me know. So again, I was probably, I think I was probably about maybe like around 7-ish or so, or maybe 6, 7, 8, somewhere, maybe, maybe about 8. I think I was 8, about 8 years old when this happened, but definitely, I was absolutely that age, yeah, because I had already lost my grandfather, my great-grandfather, so I was about somewhere between like 8 and 9 years old, somewhere like right in that age range. And I was sitting in the back of my parents' car, and we're all driving. We're trying to get back home, I think from New Jersey. We're trying to get back to New York City. And I'll never forget this. There was a terrible accident where I think some bus crashed into cars like a domino behind us, and we heard it. And my parents were like, oh my God, and there's nothing we could do because we're on the highway. And the cars are going one after the next. Boom, 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 boom. And it's about to smash, into us. And then, pow, it rams into the back. Now, this is very important. At this time, right, it was like early 80s, we don't have any seat belts in the car. Like now we have those, seat belts that go over us, and kind of strap us in. There was no seat belts. This is like an old kind of Cadillac-esque looking type of car, if I remember correctly. It's open in the middle. You have the driver's seat. You have the passenger seat next to it. It's open in the center. I'm sitting right in the center in the back. So I get, boom, hit right from the back, and I go flying forward. But I feel a huge hand, 5 fingers, push me on my chest against the seat. So what happens is my arms, head, and legs go flinging forward, but I'm being pressed against the back seat. So boom, I'm being held against the back seat so that only, boom, this flips forward, my head and my arms and my legs. I thought it was my father reaching back, to hold me like this, like he's trying to hold me back. I look down, there's nothing there. But the hand felt the entire size of my chest. Now again, I was a young boy at the time, so maybe like around that tall. I was pretty tall. I'm about 6 feet tall, a little bit over now. But at that time, I was like here. So it's holding like my whole size of my chest. I feel a huge, like the hand would be like, perspective-wise, I'm measuring on the camera, like that big is how it felt. And I could feel like each of these giant fingers, look at the difference in the size of the hand when I hold it closer to the camera. That's how big it felt. And I could feel this pressing, holding me in. So I looked down, there's nothing there, but I got whiplash because boom, my head snapped forward, had to go to the hospital for that. And my mom swears to me, I said, it was my great-grandpa's hand holding my chest back. I have no recollection of ever saying that. That's what she said. I don't know if that's accurate or not. My memory is pretty damn good, so I don't think I said it. She says that she remembers me saying it or thought it. I don't know. But I just felt that there was a huge hand that I saw. I didn't know what it was, but it felt like a physical hand pressing me against the seat and holding me back. I don't know what to say. That's what happened. There's nothing more to it than that. Pretty incredible, right? Mom, also, I wanted to ask you about that incident that happened when I must have been around 8-ish or so, and we were driving and we got hit from behind in the car. Do you remember what I said I thought happened or what I felt?
Yeah, we got smashed from behind, which lurched us forward. We all got whiplash. But Graig said, what was that hand that held me back? And he was in the back seat. We were in the front seat. And it happened in a second. We couldn't even reach back. And he said, that hand that held me back. And I said, what hand? He said, there was a hand that held him on his chest so he didn't lunge forward. And he felt it was his great-grandfather, is what he said.
I don't remember saying that it was great-grandfather. So that's what's odd to me is that I have no recollection of saying that was great-grandpa's hand or anything like that.
Actually,
but
that would corroborate that you had to have been over 7 because he passed when you were 7. So you must have been about 7 or 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And we were driving back from New Jersey visiting your other grandparents.
Yeah, but that was the whole thing. Is that I remember it was from Jersey, but the hand felt like it was the size of my whole chest, like an unusually large hand, like twice the size of a normal hand, adult hand. I don't remember saying Grandpa's name. I remember the feeling, the experience, everything like that. But I just
were insistent that there was a hand,
a giant hand, yeah, pressing me against the seat. And again, no seatbelts for me.
Because those were before seatbelts.
Yeah, there's like very uncommon to have a seatbelt in the back, and it wasn't our first car. It was one of the other cars. But all right, thank you. I appreciate it. Wow, I love you. See you later. So that was like one experience. One that was a little creepier that happened to me was in Seaside Park at Kings Gate, which was like a condominium. Condo kind of like a complex at the time that we went away for a vacation to. I don't even know if it's still there anymore, but I was staying in Dr. Shadray's place at the time with my parents, renting out that apartment. I'm sleeping in the back room. I was about 12 and a half at that time, so now I'm older. And what's fascinating about this is that I felt while I was asleep, I thought it was my mom rubbing my head. You know, it was just very nice massaging, rubbing the head. But I noticed my hair was not moving. So it was as if the fingers went through the hair directly onto my scalp, rubbing my head like this, rubbing my head, but no movement of hair. And my hair was very long back then. So I was like, you know, like pretty long, like full and long and stuff. My look back then was very similar to Keanu Reeves in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So you can imagine that kind of shaggy long hair. But I feel this wonderful head massage. I'm like, oh, it's so nice. So I open my eyes and I look, and nothing is there. And I'm like, well, it feels good, so I might as well let it continue. And I close my eyes, and again rubbing. And then this thought in my mind is, hey, Graig, there's no one there. Get the hell up. You know what I mean? Don't lay down. There's no one there. So I was like, oh yeah, it's actually really scary. So I open my eyes, it's still rubbing. I'm like, oh my God, there's no one there. And I'm feeling the rubbing and no movement of hair. And then I sit up quickly, it stops immediately, and that was the end of it. That was the end of it. Nothing more to say about it, you know? Was I somehow dreaming it and it felt real? I was 100% awake. It didn't feel at all like a dream, but I don't know. Maybe there's an explanation for it in that way, but it honestly felt 100% to me. I was completely awake. I mean, I wasn't dreaming, but you know, who knows how that stuff works, right? It never happened again. All these are kind of one-offs. Everything that I've told you. And just for my background, just so you guys know how I was raised, my parents are not religious. Not very religious, you know. My grandparents were a little bit more, but not in that kind of extremist way. Just in more traditional, in their traditional, you know, values and things like that. That how the upbringing was back then. You know, they would celebrate holidays and things along those lines. But my mom was probably a lot more spiritual in her belief, not specific to the religion as much as the spirituality, that maybe there's something more out there than we know. My dad was completely practical scientist, medical doctor, so I feel like I have a good balance of that, you know. And they both always would kind of have good open dialogues and discussions. Thank God, no trauma in my childhood, thankfully, you know, things are good. So I have a pretty solid foundation, so I'm coming to you with this information in the most factual-based way I could possibly present it through my description, you know. But I'm so curious to hear the comments if there's anybody that's had a similar kind of experience or anything like that. I met somebody. I wish she would share that information, but she had a real ghost haunting in England at a friend's mansion that she stayed in, and she showed me the video. It's astonishing. This kind of a distortion that would move through the air. And she got that on video. It looked almost like the Predator in that movie, like where there's a distortion image moving. She got that on video. She got the paintings shaking and things moving, but nothing else is moving in the room. She got all that on video. She will not share it with me. She's so frightened. What a shame. I've really tried. I've really tried to get her to share that with people. She won't. You know, she showed me and one other guy, a well-known photographer. We were all having dinner together. It was a very kind of spontaneous, random thing that had occurred. And, you know, but that's real evidence. That's real evidence. I think it should be shared. I think it's crazy not to share it. Anyway, that was something there. Also really creepy stuff, like she woke up to these handwritten notes from children, but she was alone in the house. And the child's like, please play with me, I'm so lonely. It was really sad. It's really sad. So I had asked her, I said, listen, I'm reading the note that she took the picture with her phone. Good, high quality, you know, stuff. And this was like maybe, I don't know, like 4 years ago or something. So fairly new. And I think like 2018 or something like that. And, you know, and I asked her, I said, could you just write the following words? And she wrote in different scripts. And I just want to check, did she flip out and write herself a note and think it was some ghost or whatever? But the handwriting did not match at all. Like, and again, as an artist, I could identify, you know, the kind of visual appearance of handwriting and signatures. So I could see that was not matching. You know what I mean? So whoever wrote that letter is not her. It's absolutely some other human being wrote that letter. I just don't know if it was somebody, trying to play a joke on her or whatever, but it doesn't seem like it because she's a pretty solid woman. And again, there was no, I don't know, there's nobody else in the house, she said. She was house sitting. She's watching that house for a week, I don't know. So that's that. Back to the Ouija board, right? There's a way to test the Ouija board. They have not tested it correctly. You may have seen Penn and Teller make an attempt to do a test on the Ouija board. They did it wrong. That is not the way to test the Ouija board. So I will explain how to test it quickly. They say, if you blindfold both people. For those of you who don't know, the Ouija board has the alphabet on a board. Parker Brothers had discovered it and then made it into a board game, but it's really not. It's a very serious thing, actually. A lot of people warn against not using it. You don't want to bring anything bad through or whatever, some stuff like that. I don't know. I've had a great experience using it the few times, very, very, infrequently, that I used it with my mom. As a kid, she had an old one of those from the 1940s that she had saved as a child, and then we had used that Ouija board, which we still have. I haven't used it in years. But the few times we've used it, some amazing things have happened. But we're very respectful of it. We're like, again, there's a board with an alphabet. You put your hands on the little device here. She puts her hands on the device here. And then we ask a question, and then we just let it move us to spell out the words or a yes or no question, things like that. And that's the way the Ouija board normally works. The thing about it is that they did the wrong test, which is where they blindfold people, and then the thing was just doing like this around the board and couldn't see. And that's because I have a theory that if it's real, and it's not your unconscious moving the board through your fingers, that whatever this spiritual entity or whatever you want to refer to it as, if it's real, science of consciousness, I don't know how you want to refer to it, but whatever it is, I think it needs a human being's eyes to physically see through, to hack into, to see the board and the letters to spell out. So if you cover both human beings' eyes, how is it going to see to spell out the words? It can't. It needs your eyes to see. So what I think should be done, very important, is only blindfold one player, the person who asks the question. Blindfold them. The other player, whose hands is also on the little device that moves around, is just looking. And that player does not know the answer to the question that the person who's blindfolded asks. So the blindfolded participant asks a question that only they and they alone know the answer to. And they could maybe share that answer with somebody last second who's witnessing or filming this, okay? But the other player is just there as eyes to look down at the board and let it move around. Now, ask that question. Have the blindfolded person ask the question that they only know the answer to, and let's see, does it work? Can it spell out the answer or not? Never tested it. Be very interesting to see. Maybe I should test it. I don't know. So, what happened with the Ouija board? I asked it when I was a little boy, a few years later, who threw the floating pencil? I thought that's a very interesting thing to tie together with this. And it spelled out the following. And both my mother and I were shocked. It said, your great and grandmas meant no harm, just saying hi. That to me is kind of mind-blowing. My mom swears she didn't spell that. She swears she didn't do it. So again, my mom has never tricked me or lied to me or done this kind of, hocus pocus stuff. She takes it very seriously. So I'm choosing to believe her. Technically, she could have done it. I don't think she did, But I'll tell you the next thing that happened, which was a physical paranormal experience that happened using the Ouija board that I know she had no partake in at all as a fact. I know that my parents absolutely did not partake in that. My dad was a very serious guy, didn't do any kind of jokes like that or anything. He was a very humorous person, but he would never pull pranks on people. Check this out. Very important. And again, to this day, my mother, God bless her, thank God, she always says, no, I never moved that board. I'm being 100% honest with you. So again, I'm choosing to believe her because she's never given me a reason not to, okay? Here's the big actual physical thing that happened. Just like I played the lottery tickets and won, that was like a form of proof and evidence. Here's something I'm about to tell you. A few years later, I'm about 17 years old. If I remember correctly, about that age, my mother and I are doing the Ouija board, and I just had this idea. While we're in the room, I said, to the Ouija board. If you are real, if you are really there, can you turn off the lights? Boom! The lights turned off at that second. But when I looked up at the light bulb, there was a small orange glow in that light bulb, illuminating the whole room, that little small glow. So the lights went out, everything was out, just a little orangey glow right where the electric is in that light bulb. And my mom and I freaked. We were like, what the hell? We both jumped back. My mom's like, what is that? How did that? I said, I don't know. I just had the idea to ask it. I run outside to where my dad is in the upstairs part of the apartment. And I'm yelling. I'm like, Dad. I'm like, did the lights go out? He's like, be quiet. The lights are fine. I'm watching the game. You know, he loved his football and his tennis and baseball. But it was, you know, he was like, what are you bothering me? I'm watching the game. You know, and I was like, are the lights off? He's like, the lights are fine. So it's only in the room I asked. The light is still being suppressed and squeezed down to that little orange glow. It's completely almost pitch black. It was almost as if it was completely pitch black in the room. So my mom and I grabbed the Ouija board immediately, right? And we put our hands back on it immediately. And I said, okay, I believe you. I said, thank you. Please turn the light back on. Boom! The light goes back on. That second. Incredible. I thought that was incredible. There was no shortage or power outage, or it didn't happen to any of the other lights in the apartment that are connected to the same circuit board that light above in the room that we were in is connected to. So that to me tells me so much. I'm like, wow, there's a real physical thing happening here. There's something that's able to interact. This is like some kind of a telephone to some other form of consciousness is what it seems. So I you know, also in doing the Ouija, it's so hot in here, I'm sweating. The Ouija will pull off the board when it doesn't want to talk. So as a respect to the Ouija board, you know, in case this stuff is legitimate, which it seems to be to us, you know, both my mother and I would say, hey, you know, are you able to speak? And if it says yes, great. When it pulls off the board, I'll say, okay, I guess you're tired. Do you want us to go? It'll say yes. It'll say, okay, thank you, goodbye, have a good evening, or whatever. And we put it away. We don't mess with it again for like a year or something, you know what I mean? Or longer. Hey, this is my mom, Pat. I just wanted to ask her, Mom, what do you remember about our Ouija experiences back when I was a teenager and you and I did the Ouija board and I had asked it a couple of different things?
Two things. The first one was you claimed that you saw a pencil just across the room. And you asked the Ouija board subsequently what that was, and it spelled out that it was a message from your great grandmother and grandmother. The other one, which is hard to dispute in any way, is Graig asked to show a sign by having the lights go out. And as he said it, the lights dimmed where the bulb was only orange. It was a regular bright bulb, and it suddenly dimmed to nearly off. Just a little orange glow out of nowhere. And I remember being shocked.
It was an astonishing moment, and it's you know, I'm glad that we're talking about it. I've always been apprehensive to ever post anything because it just sounds so, you know, if I didn't know someone and I'm watching a video and they're saying this, it would be so hard, I think, for anybody to believe it. But I'd rather share the information and see if anyone else out there has had those real experiences like us. And
it was very shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, what? I mean, because you didn't really think that was going to happen when he said it.
Yeah, and guys, just so you know, like my mom does not do drugs or drink or take medicine or anything like that. Thank God, you know. So I think we're a very clear-minded family. So it was pretty astonishing. I don't know if you remember this, but I had ran out. Remember, I ran out and I screamed up the stairs and I asked Dad, you know, hey Dad, is there an outage? Did the lights go out or anything? He's like, be quiet, I'm watching the game. He was upstairs in the kitchen here. In this kitchen he was, and we were downstairs. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And by the way, what do you think about it? Like when I came and told you, I mean, I must have been around 10, and I saw that pencil fly off the glass table, you know, and hit me in the leg. Like what did you think to hear me say that, you know?
It bothered me because you're a pretty solid guy, and you were pretty solid at 10, and it's not something you ever did or came up with. And then suddenly, you say this and you were just so convinced about it. You saw it with your own eyes and you were perplexed. I mean, what is that? How could that happen?
It really did
You
set
were
me on.
questioning.
Yeah, it set me on a course of trying to understand how things work, or things that I think will one day be scientifically explainable, but it's hard to test it because it's hard to recreate the experience, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see. And
what legitimized it more is that you couldn't recreate it. It
Yeah.
happened. It was a one time.
yeah,
But I also asked the Ouija, I said, what are you? I said, were you a human being? It said, yes. Every time I've asked this, I've asked it multiple times throughout the years. Yes. What did you do? Psychic. So it's always the same answer. They were human. They were a psychic. That's it. I said, how is existence where you are? It says similar. Similar to ours? Yes. That's what it says. So I don't know what that means, but if there's some kind of form of consciousness, or if all of our experiences of life itself is just being fed, into our fingertips, into our physical experience, into our eyes, our ears, into all of our senses, as a way to record information. Maybe our human bodies are like a scanner, right? We're all floating on a rock in space called Earth. So, maybe there was no beginning or end to conscious life or time. Maybe we just are and always have been. Something I write about again in my upcoming Ray Vidactyl movie. We finished the screenplay, 130 pages for him, and Codename Justice, 120 pages. The comic books I'm working on, is a whole bunch of stuff, but a lot of the things that I create here really stem from some form of a personal connection that I've had through an experience, in my life, or things that I've studied or researched or looked into. These are all factual-based things that I 100% stand by. They're all as accurate as I could possibly describe them to you. I'm not exaggerating anything whatsoever. I'm trying to be as meticulously detailed as possible in my accuracy for what's happened. The other thing that I thought was a very it's a fascinating experience. Let me just pause this so I don't run out of battery. Okay, I'm back. Mandela Effect. I had my own Mandela Effect, which is what led me to finding that there's something called the Mandela Effect, right? A lot of it is brain farts or mistakes or people remembering things wrong. So I've actually worked at debunking a lot of the stuff. Everything that I've talked to you about, I've spent a tremendous amount of time trying to debunk so that I could see what's left. And what's left is that's the ingredients we got to work with, okay? So, for example, Luke, I am your father in Star Wars. No, he did not say Luke. He said, there's a pause, and then he says, no, I am your father, Darth Vader to Luke Skywalker. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Star Wars, that's a crime. You should have seen it. It's been out for a billion years. But, there are certain things people just remember wrong, right? I did a video about the Berenstein Bears because I always remembered it as being the Berenstein Bears or Berenstein Bears, S-T-E-I-N, right? Now it's the Berenstain, S-T-A-I-N, Steen being a Jewish name. And I met the guy who went to school with the Berenstein's son. So when I spoke to him, he used to be one of the managing owners of Halloween Adventure in New York City. You can see it on my YouTube channel. He said, no, it was 100% the Berensteins, S-T-E-I, and that, it's a Jewish family, and they named it after themselves and their own kid. So he was shocked to learn that it's Berenstain now, and thinks that there was he can't explain that, right? So what happened to me? How did I discover this Mandela Effect? There's a few big ones, like, again, Dolly in James Bond 007, where that's the actress, if you guys remember Moonraker and the old 007 back in the day with Roger Moore. There was a character in it named Jaws, not like the shark, but like this big monstrous guy with these metal Jaws-like teeth, right, for chomping. And he gets, dropped on this island, and there's this beautiful girl, again, probably like in her, mid-20s, with these pigtails, and she has these braces, and then he looks at her and smiles, right? She's like, she looks like a little girl with the pigtails, but she's in her 20s, and and she smiles back, and he sees that she has metal braces, like he has metal teeth also, and then they smile and they bond and they fall in love and they become boyfriend and girlfriend in the James Bond movie. It was a really cute scene, and I remember seeing that in the theaters, and I remember seeing it replayed on TNT and on television and, you know, all these different shows, and I always loved that scene. It was such a beautiful artistic scene. Now, when she smiles, the braces are gone. And there's no evidence anywhere of there ever being braces. And they even interviewed the actress, and she says, no, she didn't have braces, which is crazy because I remember seeing it personally. And so does a few million people who reported this same Mandela effect. So that's an interesting kind of thing. And then people are coming up with theories like, oh, maybe our consciousness is transferring from one plane of existence, like the multiverse, into another one. So we're bouncing into different versions of the similar reality, but in one reality, these little changes occur, and one it doesn't. The amount of seats in the car where Kennedy was assassinated, the former president, you know, has changed. And there's a lot of like serious stuff. But the one that got me to notice it was Iron Man 3, the movie. Check this out. I remember in Iron Man 3, my godbrothers and I are sitting down, and we're watching the movie on IMAX, and then all these different armors come out. And when I was 14 years old, I created a superhero character with a rib cage on the outside of his costume with a skull mask and these kind of skeleton bones. So I had done this design for myself when I was a kid, you know, always drawing superheroes and stuff. But in Iron Man 3, an armored Iron Man comes out, and I was like, wow, what is that? That looks so cool. And it was like almost black with these bones on the outside of the armor. I was like, that's so cool. That looks so similar to my design when I was 14. It has all the bones of the body outside on top of the armor. So it looks almost like a skeleton Iron Man. It was really cool. And my godbrothers noticed that as well, and they remembered the drawing that I had done, so that was a fascinating moment. So I remember, you know, pre-ordering Hot Toys, the action figure company, was coming out with that figure, and I pre-ordered it, and it's called Iron Man Bones Armor. Bones Armor. So I pre-ordered that. I was all excited. What happens? A year later, the toy comes out, and it looks kind of almost like an Egyptian armor. You know, it's kind of like brown and gold, and I was like, or brown and copper. And I was like, that's so weird. And it has like these kind of mechanical designs on the outside, but that's not the bone armor I saw in the film. I go back, I pull up the movie. It's gone. It looks like the toy. I'm like, where the hell's the Bones armor? It's called Bones. It's still called Bones. What's going on here? You know, I call my godbrothers. They're like, that's so weird. Why did they change the design? I said, I don't know. It's super weird. So I go back and I find camcorder footage that somebody had filmed of Iron Man 3. What is this, 2000 and, God, I don't even remember what year it was. It was 2000 something, but, you know, I think 13, right? Maybe something like that. And I'm looking at it and, you know, I'm checking the film, and no, it's this kind of Egyptian looking armor. It doesn't look like the bones that we all remember. And I said, this is impossible. I feel like I'm going bananas. This is crazy. How could this design have changed? So I start researching, you know, memory different than, you know, reality, what's going on. And then I find Mandela Effect. I said, what's that? And I start studying it and researching it and reading it. And that's where I said, oh my God, other people are having similar experiences that we could share in pop culture. But there's a lot of these experiences that probably happen in our personal lives that we are completely unable to share because it's just us by ourselves alone, you know what I mean? So we can't share that with other people. That's frustrating, right? So at least in pop culture, we all have seen the same thing, and we could all share and kind of compare notes there. So again, there's this theory about this multiverse and people's consciousness plugging in and out of different physical forms of the body or whatever. But, you know, again, if Elon Musk's theory is correct about, you know, this being one of many simulations that we've perfected so well that we're living in it, we're born, we grow the bodies, there's like organic matter, and that's what we infuse our consciousness into, then that means it's hackable. And if it is hackable, like I'm thinking, then that would explain how the pencil is flowing and how the Ouija board is moving. It would explain everything. If this is the most highest level of sophisticated, simulated reality, or that is our reality, but it's able to be created, and we have a different life where our consciousness exists separately from our physical matter, and it's not all tied into the brain, but the brain is in fact possibly, and I write about this in my comic book, a receiver sending and receiving signals to a wireless, cloud-like device. Again, maybe the Akashic records they refer to it as, for retrieval of those memories after death. If we're collecting that experience, then there's a form of existence that exists in a non-physical way. That could be fascinating, a way to actually carry memories past the human body. I mean, I wonder if that's even possible. You know what I mean? It's just something to theorize and kind of play with or toy with right now, as crazy as it sounds. But, there's a lot of crazy things out there. Just the fact that we're floating on a blue rock somewhere in the center of space, or is it the center of space? That's crazy enough as it is, isn't it? What more do you need than that? So that's something. Now, I've posted a bunch of videos on my YouTube channel talking about also ways that the precognition could work, such as the distance of the sun takes about 8 minutes for the beams of light to actually, those beams of rays of light, to reach our optics, right? It's a time delay. So even if in reality the sun is down, right, it appears up for 8 more minutes in the sky to us, because we're seeing the residue image or the after image, because it takes that long for light to travel. So maybe in our experiences of life, maybe there are certain kind of quantifying analyses of what's going to happen next, almost like chaos theory. Something leads to something else. So maybe there's a kind of a mathematical design of how these things are about to go down, and maybe somehow I was able to read it like a scanning device. You know what I'm saying? Just like if I brought like a CD back to 1970, people would be like, what the hell is this? We have nothing to read it with. If I bring a USB stick to somebody from 1990, they'd be like, what is this? I don't know how to read this. What is that? I have no device to decode this. So maybe my mind somehow is able to decode some of those mathematical numbers, like the lottery that I won, or like my ex-girlfriend calling me in 6 minutes. Maybe there's a way that I'm somehow decoding that signal, because all of us are frequency and energy signals being beamed throughout. So maybe I'm able to kind of read that device temporarily for a second, and that's how it works. Just a theory. So anyway, I'm trying to write about all this stuff in the comic books. It'll be coming out hopefully. So there's a lot there to unpack. But I also try to debunk things. I posted videos of these floating lights that seem to be behind the clouds. I, in the description, posted what I think is an actual explanation for how that works. I don't think it's as paranormal as I originally had thought. As I came across different spotlights that were able to penetrate beyond the clouds, it appears as if it's behind it, but it's really not. There's also this bullwhip light from the sun that seems to move, and like it kind of dances. This light is dancing in the sky. If you guys have seen all that video, and it looks unbelievable. But there have been explanations for that as well, which is as a cloud quickly moves past the sun, it could distort the light, giving it an illusion of movement, right? Because the light is actually technically just coming through between the clouds. So some of my earlier videos that I had posted about that, where I'm like, what is this? And oh my God, this looks so crazy. Now there's some kind of better explanation for. So I'm constantly trying to grow and evolve and continue to understand, what can be debunked and what can't, what is still a question mark. And I think there's an explanation for everything. Guys, check out Phineas Quimby if you haven't. Very interesting philosopher. He never actually released the books, but they found all his notes and put them into a series of books. Phineas Quimby. And one of the things about him is he says that the information has always and forever existed, and we as human beings are just discovering it and then decoding it, and then we'll take credit to each other. Hey, I found it first, I invented it, but really we're discovering it. You know what I'm saying? So it's an interesting theory. So he's like, if somebody designed a car and then the world blows up, he's like, that information about how to make a car still is alive and exists in the spectrum of the universe. It's just that we need physical matter and people to build it. You know what I'm saying? So it's an interesting theory. The D-Wave quantum computer that's exponentially learning at a huge, fast rate with AI, artificial intelligence. I have a theory that maybe this description that people have created of what they think God is, right, which could be debated forever. People are saying, oh, maybe God is this or that, or, it's the man in the sky, or it's this, maybe it's what's written in the Bible, or whatever, but they forget that that's still written by human hands, right? So there's going to be something lost in translation. So maybe all the things that we're inventing, maybe we are the creations of this described godlike figure that is supposed to know all, see all, and do good for us, right? Aren't we building that right now with quantum mechanics and quantum the quantum D-wave computer and artificial intelligence to be this all-knowing, all-knowledgeable thing that's supposed to protect human beings? So, maybe we are the accidental creators of this God that we've come up with, right? But is there an actual God? Maybe there is something that has intention. Because if you have to break down a human being, my thought is that human beings are one thing. Can any of you guys guess what I'm going to say? Human beings are one thing. We are desire. That embodies everything that we are. We desire to eat, we desire to breathe, we desire to live, we desire to connect, we desire to share, we desire to create, we desire to go to sleep, we desire to wake up. Whatever it is, we desire to donate, we desire to make this or do that, or work here or travel here. Everything comes from desire. We desire to love, we desire to hate, we desire to laugh, everything comes from desire. So desire to me is what each human being is. Some desire bad things, and that's really sad. And some people desire good things, and that's wonderful. And the people who desire the good is how more good kind of, breeds into the world, so to speak. So a couple of other instances that I wanted to target and focus on was when my cousin Jerry passed away. Now this, of course, is, I'm older. I think I'm in my late 20s, early 30s. No, late 20s, actually. And my mother and I lit a candle for him, one of those long ones with the white wax in it, and the long glass kind of thing. And it was sitting on the piano, and it had, candle had been burning. So when it got down to the bottom, near the wick, suddenly it started to rotate like this on the piano, and we were both like, "What the hell is that?" And it's literally going like this, so if you could imagine the cylinder here and the bottom of it, so kind of rotating like this, but frenetically and quickly, and then boom, it breaks and the light goes out. I don't know if maybe a physicist can explain that's a thing that happens maybe when the heat of the candle goes down to the glass and maybe it bursts or whatever. But my mom and I were shocked and we're like, "What the hell is that?" So that's one kind of thing over there. The biggest kind of thing that I think has happened is in relationships I've had. I've had this kind of, God, it's going to sound so weird, but it's like a voice, not exactly, but it's like it, that has told me in 3 different relationships that I've had to wait, and I've listened to that, and it shockingly has come true. So with my first relationship, I was 21. I met this girl in grad school that I ended up being with for almost 6 years on and off. Still, we talk to this day, wonderful person. But I remember I was leaving and walking, and this voice in my mind is like, "Go back." And I was like, "Wait, what?" Just go back. That's it. Just go back. It's a male voice. I can't identify it. It's not mine. It's just go back, So I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I go back, we start talking, and we have this whole 6-year thing. Now fast forward to the next relationship I had. Again, in the beginning of the relationship, I was dating this person who ended up being my wife at the time, now ex-wife. She started to get into some bad things. I had to get out of that, so I ended it. Respectfully, we're still friends and peaceful. But at the time, she was working in this cafe, and I had dropped her off there, and I had, eaten a little bit there, and then I left her there. And as I was leaving, the voice was like, "Wait." I was like, "What do you mean, wait?" I'm literally halfway down the block. It's like, "Wait." She's a waitress in this restaurant. And I'm like, "This is so weird. Why am I waiting?" So I wait, and then I'm like, "What am I doing here? This is the stupidest thing." It's just wait. And I'm like, "What? Wait for what? What is that? What is that? Is it a thought? Am I having a thought? It doesn't sound like a thought. I don't think with a male voice like that. I just have a thought that's my own. You know what I mean? This is a very separate kind of thing. telling me to wait, right? And again, I've never had this except for these experiences that I'm describing to you. So after about 45 seconds of standing like an idiot in the street, boom, she runs out of the restaurant behind me crying. I said, what the hell? Like, I mean, if you could have seen how shocked I was. I really did not expect or anticipate this at all. So she comes out, and I'm like, what, oh my God, what happened? And she's like, oh, the guy was trying to sexually harass me. And I was like, what? And I went in and I screamed at him and he apologized. But it was just such a crazy experience that happened, Now, here's where it gets really serious. I was dating a girl not that long ago. We're probably talking maybe like 2012-ish, right? So, a beautiful girl, and, I went to her birthday party. We were dating for a little while, and we were probably like maybe, I don't know, less than a month in. But it was like clear that we were trying to see how things go at that time. It was pretty hot and heavy, So she's like, listen, come to the karaoke after the birthday party here. I want to sing with you or whatever, and we're all going to go there on 55th Street and in the Japanese karaoke place. I was like, okay, that sounds great. I said, let's do it. I said, but I have to stop off at this. There was a celebrity event thing that I was supposed to go to, so I had to go there. I said, but I'll circle. She said, no, please come. I said, I'm gonna meet you back there. Just give me like an hour and a half, and I'll come right back, right? So she's like, okay, fine. So I go to the event, and then as I'm coming back an hour and a half later, I'm walking, right? I get out of the car, and I'm walking down the block on 55th, and I see the Japanese karaoke place. I'm about to walk in, and this voice is like, keep walking. I was like, what the? That voice. I haven't heard that voice in years. I was like, what? Keep walking. So I'm like, okay. So I kind of just keep walking and walking. It's like, keep going. So I'm like, what is this? I mean, it's a weird experience to have this, and I don't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? I'm just kind of like, okay. So I walk past the karaoke place and it says over here. So I walk a couple of, I guess a few doors down and then cross the street to the left and it's like over here. And I'm like, what over here? What is this? And it's a very subtle, it's a subtle voice. I don't know how to explain it. I've never had it any other time. So I go into this other hotel bar, right? And it's just like, keep going. And it's like, stop. And I'm like, okay, that's so weird. Okay, this is the strangest shit I ever heard, right? And I'm standing by this pillar and it's like, wait for it. And I'm like, wait for what? And I'm like, what's going on? I look over the pillar. There she is, the girl that I've been seeing, sitting with the new guy. And I'm like, what the hell? She's not in the karaoke place. She's here. How did this even where am I? I don't even know what hotel I'm in. Like, what hotel lounge bar is this? You know what I mean? It ended up being in Dream, right next to Dream. So that's the name of the hotel. So I'm looking, it's like, wait. And I'm like, what? Wait, what? And then the voice leaves. That's it. It's just wait, and then it's gone. And you could feel it dissipate. I don't know how to, I swear, bro. I swear, it's so freaking crazy. It's like so creepy and weird. But I did. I listened to it just because who wouldn't? Like, I mean, how often does that crap happen, right? So I'm standing there and I'm watching over the pillar, and then boom, she starts making out with the guy. And I'm like, oh my God, she's cheating. This is terrible. Like, this is, I was shocked. So, me being me, I decide to just, walk up and I pull a chair and I sit down right next to them like this. And I'm just looking at both of them. And they're making out, and then now this is interesting. I'm sitting here, their eyes are closed, they're kissing, but one eye opens from her and she looks. So that means that she could sense me, even though she's not seeing me, right? You ever feel like someone's standing behind you, looking at you, even though you're not seeing them, but you feel it, and you turn around and there's somebody standing behind you and talking, right? So that's a very fascinating kind of thing. By the way, these characters behind me, I make this stuff. So I made these superheroes with my team. All of us sculpt and make these things together. But, she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I'm not, I say nothing. I'm just looking like this. And she's like, I'm so sorry. She's like, I don't want you. I want Graig. I'm so sorry. And the guy's like, what's going on? He's like, hey, bro, I just met her. I'm sorry, bro. I was like, I don't say anything. I'm just standing like this. The guy's like, okay, I'm going to leave you two alone. So the guy was cool, and he got up and walked away because he could see that something was up. And I just told her, look, I said, you have a happy birthday. I'm out. And I left. You know what I mean? Because that's BS, right? And she's running after me, and oh, please don't go, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So you understand what happened, right? So the idea is that this voice was like guiding me past the Japanese karaoke place into this new place across the street. That's bananas. I mean, to me, that's astonishing. What an incredible, like, I wish I had that voice. Like I wish I could trigger it and use it whenever I felt like it. It just comes when it comes, you know? So that's something that had happened that I thought was very interesting. I thought you guys might find that fascinating too. I finally convinced my father to do the Ouija board with me, which I had mentioned to you guys. And the Ouija board was a very interesting kind of dynamic with him, because he doesn't believe any of this stuff, you know, but he's like, are you moving it? I said, I swear I'm not moving it. He's like, this is crazy. And I was asking, like, you know, like, what's the name of my, you know, grandfather, like, is there a non-human pronounced name that letters can somehow make the phonetic sound of, and it's spelling out different, you know, letters that I couldn't pronounce. But then I had always remembered when I did my signing for the Spawn comic book, there was one place I had done it at a comic book shop, and I think it was no, not Cosmic. I forget the name of the place, but I was doing a signing there, and one of the home video movies was stolen. I didn't know where it was, so I asked, "Where's the missing videotape from that autograph signing?" Right? And my, you know, dad is watching all this stuff, and it says upstairs, behind bookshelf, in hallway, which is bananas, right? It's like second bookshelf behind, but it's like describing everything, and I'm like, what? I'm like, upstairs, yes. I'm like, you know, the left one, yes. I'm like, it's like behind. I was like, wow. So I'm like, Dad, let's go check it out. So I run all the way to the upstairs back, you know, bookshelf. I move it, and boom, there is an audio tape. It was close. It wasn't the videotape, but it was in fact an audio tape. The videotape was the same size though. It was like one of those little camcorder videos that were small. So this was an audio cassette tape that had just fallen back there. It's unrelated to the autograph signing, but hey, videotape, audio tape, pretty close. You know, I never knew it was back there. It had been there for, 10 years or something like that. It's crazy. You know, so just very fascinating that happened too. So those are like little kind of elements or little things that have happened along the way. No, I don't have any kind of, you know, schizophrenia, or I don't see objects floating. I don't hear voices anywhere. This is very isolated instances that have happened and actually led to things as I have described to you. So just in case that was a thought you guys had. But I mean, listen, again, I know it's a lot to take in. I understand, but I'm just trying to report the information in case someone else out there has had this. You know, but I wonder, like, have you guys ever had these things happen? Have you ever misplaced items and suddenly they reappear, or things just, I don't know, weird stuff? I'm really curious to hear in the comments what you guys have experienced. So again, let's take it from there and see what you guys have to say. Now, in no way do I want to discount anybody's experience just because maybe they were on ayahuasca, or, you know, inebriated, or drinking, or drugs, or anything like that. I'm not discounting that at all. But when you're presenting your information and your story and your experience to someone like a scientist, they're going to excuse anything that has the most reasonable, logical explanation. So if somebody was on a psychedelic, doing drugs, drinking, any kind of thing like that that could alter the senses, that could alter your natural state of awareness and cognitive function, they will automatically assume is something that is because of what you took, like you're having a hallucinogenic response or hallucinatory response, or whatever the word is. They're going to assume that you're hallucinating it, or that the brain is playing tricks on you, or the mind is playing tricks on you, like you're dreaming or you're hallucinating. So that's why I say it's so important to try to have experiences when you are 100% clear-minded, if there's no kind of history of any kind of mental illness in, you know, one's family, or if you yourself have ever experienced that, or if you've been on any medication for that. It doesn't mean that the experience wasn't real. It may have actually happened, but a scientist will automatically discount those types of things. And if they do discount it, even if it was real, they have to technically discount and default to whatever the simplest explanation is. So again, that's one of the reasons why I've personally made sure to keep myself as clear-minded and clean as possible so that nobody could question that as a possible reason for the experiences that I had. Especially because I've not only had them as a child and as a teenager, but as an adult. So I wanted to make sure that I was as clear-minded as possible. And a quick little update that I wanted to add. I was doing some massive research and thinking, and I think I figured out a pattern to the precognition that I have had. And I think that it's been connected to other people who have made decisions in advance. If someone else has made a decision in advance that I'm somehow connected with, like an ex-girlfriend or a current girlfriend or things like that, it seems to be related strongest to if I have a connection to somebody that I'm in a relationship or was in a relationship with. There seems to be a pattern that if they have a decision that they make in advance, such as they're going to call me and I haven't heard from them from a few years because it's, we were broken up or whatever, I'm able to predict in 6 minutes they're going to call, something like that. And then bang, they call on that moment. There's no holiday, there's no birthday, there's nothing special about it. It's just whammo, it hits me. They make the decision, I receive it. It's not that I think it and then they pick up on it and are going to call. No, I don't think it's that. I think it's that they think about it, they're going to call, and then wham, I get the alert. Like a sixth sense of sorts, right? But it doesn't work with things that I cannot... It doesn't work with things that people haven't decided or don't know an answer to. I cannot pick up on those things. Do you see what I'm saying? So, for example, I might be part of this clinical trial to do, like a knee injection, stem cell thing, stuff like that. But it's a double-blinded test, meaning that the doctor doesn't know if I'm getting the real thing or not, and they also don't know the side effects. They don't know if it can cause, cancer or bad things. Unfortunately, they don't know that details. They know there's a realistic possibility. They don't know, so I may or may not do that trial. But if I try to apply the ability to read what the outcome will be in advance, like to quote-unquote psychically figure out or read what the outcome will be for me if I take it. Is it safe or not? Since nobody knows, there's nothing for me to read or pick up on. Do you see what I'm saying? So if somebody doesn't have the answer, then I can't pick up on them because there's no answer to be picked up on. So that's why I believe I think that's the pattern that I've noticed, that throughout my life, thus far, everybody's already had a decision that's been made. For example, when I gave the example of the lotto numbers being picked and I was vacuuming and able to predict those numbers. Remember, TV has a time delay by about 6 or 7 seconds or so. So wherever that newscaster was reading those numbers, they read the numbers first. Then I picked up on it and said it before the broadcast signal with that delay gave the actual numbers to me. Do you understand? So for example, the newscaster is reading the results. It takes about maybe 7 seconds for it to go, to the satellite and then beam down to the TV, and then for me to hear the results, just like when you're watching a TV or something like that. Unlike the internet, which is broadcasting it real time. There is a slight delay there too, but not as long. So with TV, they always had an intentional delay in case there was a problem or for censorship or things if they had to like bleep something if somebody cursed or whatever. So I think that's how that works. I don't know if I would have been able to predict it if I was there live in the studio with the newscaster, because then no human being knew what the answer is. They didn't know what numbers would be picked when those balls popped up in the machine with the numbers, like the little golf balls with the numbers on them. So my point is that if I was there in person, if nobody saw the numbers that were going to pop up first, I don't know if I would have been able to psychically pick up or read that signal. You see what I'm saying? But because somebody did see it first in the studio, read the numbers, and then it takes 7 seconds to beam from the studio to the satellite, then to my TV and everybody else's TVs, that's when I was able to pick up on the number when they read it, when a person read it. So I was able to say the number and predict it a few seconds before it aired, before it actually went to TV and they announced it. So, for example, if you had cameras everywhere broadcasting in real time, you would see the newscaster say, today's winning number is 6. Then I'm vacuuming and I say, the first number is 6. And then it says, boom, the number is 6, for example, or 6 on the TV, because they saw it first, right? It went to the signal. I picked up on it right the second they saw it in real time. Then boom, it went to the TV, and the TV then said what was being filmed, and that's how that was done. I hope this is not too confusing and that I'm not muddling this up and making this too confusing. But the point is that I think that that's what it is. If somebody knows something, I could potentially pick up on it sometimes. And it seems to work better with people that I know. Again, relationships, girls, like I had told the stories I had mentioned to you that I experienced, like when I met my first girlfriend, and there's like a voice that says, wait, there's something, there's a connection there with my former ex-wife. When she was having that battle, that fight in the restaurant, I had that voice say, wait, and then boom, she comes out, and sure enough, she said, yes, there was a fight and things like that had happened. So that's kind of an example of where I've been connected to special people in my life, and I could pick up on what they were receiving. Almost like I'm hacking into their experience or their conscious experience for some reason. And again, not intentionally, just randomly. The only one that I think does not fit this is that really strong precognition that I had, with the Dr. Doom Comic-Con thing when I was a younger kid. And that kid who was mentally challenged, who kind of thought he was part of the Avengers and holding his Avengers card, and the actor dressed up as Dr. Doom saying, no, kid, please, I'm not Dr. Doom, I'm just an actor. My ability to predict that whole thing wasn't a prediction, though. It was an actual memory that came to me before I experienced it, right? So what that means is that event, somehow those blocks were moving into, like chaos theory, right? It ricochets other things that's going to happen. So that kid had a thought, had an intention, he's going to pull out his Avengers card, tell Dr. Doom. So he must have been thinking about it for a while, right? Then I'm picking up on it. But it's different. It's different because there was no voice involved. There was no voice that said wait. There was no voice that said stop or wait or nothing like this or keep going here. It was not that voice. There was no voice at all. I just stopped, dropped my bag, boom, memories in my head as if I experienced it and lived it already. And then sure enough, a few minutes later, I did. So that was weird because it kind of downloaded this event into my mind minutes before I was actually going to walk into it and experience it. It's a very random, odd, strange event to have happen. There's no significant value that I can see. So I guess that's its own category. I guess there's like the voice category and the precognition category. So I'm just trying to share this with you guys in the hopes that somebody out there has had something similar and can share their notes as well. It's one of the reasons why, I made sure to stay as mentally sound as humanly possible. Because, I don't mess with drugs or alcohol, things like that I'd mentioned. I don't do any of that stuff. I want to stay clean and focused. There's no schizophrenia in the family. I've been, tested to make sure I'm okay. I requested. I was like, please examine me, check me out. You know what I mean? Everyone said, I'm fine. I check out fine. So, everybody that I have, talked to or communicated with, medical professionals, everybody, I'm 100% A-OK according to the medical professions. I think that it's a kind of nice thing to stay alert and clear-minded so that we could get to the bottom of solving this because there's a real thing happening. So if we could try to log down and keep a record of any events like this that happen, maybe one day we could piece this all together and figure out how to access it for our own well-being, for each other, you know what I mean, and trying to make good decisions. But I think if somebody does not have an answer, again, with this clinical trial test, nobody knows if there's going to be side effects or not afterward. Theoretically, they hope there won't be. That's it. Nobody knows if it's going to happen or not. So I don't think then that psychic ability, at least for me, will be able to pick up or read what's going to happen because nobody knows. But again, that experience of having the whole, that kid with the Avengers card and the Dr. Doom actor dressed up, that's kind of a crazy random occurrence. It doesn't fit into this. I don't know. Technically speaking, if you could have a memory pre-downloaded into your head before you live it, and it's exactly that, it's like the exact same experience, then technically speaking, there should be some way to hack into the next things that are going to occur, even if it's a few minutes before they happen, right? Mine happened maybe around 7 minutes or so before it actually happened. I would guess 7 to 15 minutes. I'm trying to remember. Like, I just remember walking into the place and seeing the comic books and seeing the guy, the actor, Dr. Doom, walk by, things like that. So, anyway, I don't know. I'm just trying to see if there's a pattern, you know. And the only thing I could tell you is that that voice that triggers, and that's always been 100% activated and accurate, has never come out and been wrong. It's never said something and it didn't happen. It's never boom appeared and it didn't happen. It's only come out and it's happened. So whatever that is. So again, I don't know. I'm just I'm trying to share with you in real time what my thoughts are and what's happened, and see if we could figure this stuff out together, you know. I've tried to channel it and, you know, put it into interesting, you know, parts of my life to come up with things. And, you know, again, as a guy who creates superhero comic book characters like these guys over here, you know, it's kind of a therapeutic thing for me to, you know, try to get this off my chest, so to speak, and turn it into something artistic. I don't know what else to do with it other than to share with you guys and see what your thoughts are. So, guys, there's a lot to unpack here. I think we did a pretty good job here. There's more, believe it or not, but that's good for now. So again, please make sure to follow, subscribe, like, and share. This has been independent comic book artist, writer, director Graig Weich from BeyondComics.tv. If you get a chance, again, please check out the comic book I drew and co-created. GEKIDO means wrath in Japanese. You'll see some of the artwork that I drew here. And it has a preview of some of my upcoming other characters, but that's GEKIDO right there. And you can see here some of the work as well. And then for this character over here, you can see Ravidactyl right over here. And then on the other side over here, you can see Codename Justice. So if you guys can see him there. And that's coming soon. So again, guys, thanks for watching. This has been me, comic book artist, writer, and director Graig Weich from BeyondComics.tv. And I'm very, very honored that we got some of the celebrities on board here, which has been really, really fun to work with everybody. And my business partner here is the guy from Mortal Kombat and the Man in the High Castle, Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa. You can see him right over there. And he's been great, so you'll see him drawn as the supervillain here, as well as Ice-T's wife, Coco, from Law & Order. You can see the picture of them here, and then the drawing that I put next to them. We got the guy from the Howard Stern Show. We got Adrienne Curry, whenever America's Next Top Model. So I just cast real celebrities officially as superhero and supervillain characters in my comic books. So guys, thanks for watching. As they say in comics, to be continued. Peace.